and I'd like to go through it kind of quickly. You know, basically there's different calendar systems. You have the 260-day calendar and the 365-day Hob, and they work together to make the calendar round system. But the long count calendar that gives us the 2012 date is very different. I mean, you find them operating together. You have the Tzolk'in and the Hob right next to the long count. But the long count is a base 20 system, and December 21st is of 2012 is the end of a 13 Baktun period in the long count calendar. You know, people debate whether it's a 13 Baktun cycle or if it's just the end of the 13th Baktun or it's the end of a 13 Baktun period and it's not really a cycle. All of this is like, you know, splitting hairs, you know. Clearly the Maya had a cyclical conception of time. So you can talk about a 1-day cycle. You can talk about a 13-day cycle, a 20-day cycle, a 260-day cycle. There's all these nested cycles in Maya thought. And there's no reason to think that, you know, especially because we have the evidence from Carigua, where there's this creation event that happens at the end of the previous 13 Baktun period. So now we have this next 13 Baktun period that falls on December 21st of 2012. And we have the work of Maya scholars who have been reconstructing the calendars, because it's a question as to how the Maya calendar relates to our own. What's the correlation? How do we know the correlation is accurate? In my recent book, The 2012 Story, I go into great detail reconstructing the process by which researchers, explorers, adventurers in the 1800s, many of them were independent. You know, we're looking and reconstructing the Maya calendar material. You know, Ernst Forstemann in Germany, and then Joseph T. Goodman. He was a newspaper man, and he is the one who basically figured out the correlation. I should have a picture of him here because he was a great independent thinker, and he got it figured out. You know, and he, you know, they didn't really believe him, and he died, and then J. Eric S. Thompson came along, and Juan Martinez, and they together sort of confirmed it. And anyway, it's an interesting story how progress sometimes happens like that. But anyway, the point is that it's pretty much settled, you know, that the correlation shows that the period ending falls on December 21st of 2012, and you know, you could do your own research on that. I have a lot of stuff on my website that shows that. So there are dates and events recorded in the long count calendar of different types. There's astronomy, there's ritual, there's religious beliefs, and there's history, you know, like the date on which the king was made the king and stuff like that. Beliefs about time and the creation of the world and cosmology. We have creation texts that are recorded that have long count dates. Some of the long count dates are separated by huge intervals. It's almost like the Maya were talking about sort of supernatural events that happened sometimes hundreds of thousands of years ago. Now, this doesn't mean that Atlantis was floating around out there or anything like that. You know, it just means that they had this kind of like cosmological thinking which they wanted to relate the events that were going on in current time to these vast supernatural cycles. Because again, you know, they didn't make these kind of separations between the secular domain and the spiritual or supernatural domain. And so you find these kinds of things going on. And here's some long count dates and inscriptions. You know, the bar is 5, and here's 3 bars and a 1. The dot is 1. So this is what we have going on here. I don't know exactly what this is, but this is clearly a distance number right here. It looks like it could be, this is actually a pretty big distance number now that I look at it. This looks like it would be 3 Baktuns, 1 Khatun, 16 Huinals, and 1 king. So there's a big number here that's connecting something with something else in this text. It could be a period of, well, 3 Baktuns, that'd be like 400 times 3 would be about 1,200 years or something. So there's some kind of connection going on. And we'll get into this a little bit because it's really critical for understanding the Tortuguero monument. The long count works with a nested period of days. You know, we've got these different periods in the long count. The critical thing to understand is that the 13 Baktun period is a cycle of some 5,125 years. So this period that ends on December 21st of 2012 began back in 3114 BC. So we have some texts about the creation event that happened in 3114 BC. They're mainly from Karegwa, but they're also mentioned at Palenque and Copan, and there's one from Tikal and Naranjo, I think, too. Anyway, Australian researcher Carl Calloway is doing a complete survey of all of the dates that reference the creation date back in 3114 BC. And he's also, I think, going to have to include the 2012 date reference on Monument 6 from Tortuguero to understand what they were thinking about these kind of creation events. And so, now, so what is 2012 about, you know? Well, according to my 2012 alignment theory, I present evidence to argue that the originators of the long count calendar intended the 13th Baktun period ending in 2012 to target a rare astronomical alignment and its precession. The sun wobbles, or the earth wobbles very slowly on its axis, and over a 26,000 year period, the axis of the earth points to different stars in the northern skies. That's like the wobbling of the earth. And one of the effects of this, however, is that it causes the position of the sun on the equinoxes to precess or shift, thus the precession of the equinoxes. It also affects the solstices. So the positions of the equinoxes and solstices will shift very slowly in the sky. And this basically looks like this. Okay, so here is the ecliptic, which is the path followed by the sun, moon, and planets. Here's the bright band of the Milky Way. Here's the dark rift in the Milky Way. Now this is also thought, this is a crossroads. It's the cross formed by the Milky Way and the ecliptic. So as the Earth is wobbling very slowly, it's causing the position of the sun on the solstice to slowly shift its position. And over thousands of years, it comes into alignment with the crossroads at the southern terminus of the dark rift in the Milky Way. So this is a fact of astronomy. It's happening around the years 2012. And the definition is the alignment of the solstice sun with the dark rift crossroads in the Milky Way. And so it's very important to understand that this is real astronomy. I'm not talking about Planet X or, you know, this other thing that I'll illustrate that Jim did a nice image of. And so, you know, the term galactic alignment, I think, has been a bit problematic. I don't know, I think it's a good term. You could say solstice galaxy alignment, so, you know. The definition that I put out for this, because I realize you have to be very clear with these kind of things, the definition that I offer is a scientific definition, you know, and, you know, it's in, my 2002 book is called Galactic Alignment. And I first put out the clear definitions and went into the, you know, you have to discuss like ranges and things like that. But it's, you know, one can't jump to the conclusion and say that, you know, this means that the Maya thought that this was going to cause the end of the world or something like that. So there's all kinds of problems, like assumptions that people project into this. But that's not even, I've never even talked about it in that way. But the real problem is that other like writers in the marketplace have co-opted my work and appropriated it and distorted it. And the History Channel is guilty of this too. I've been interviewed on the History Channel. It's been extremely problematic. And they misrepresent my stuff, so sometimes it seems like I'm advocating doomsday or something because they do all these jump cuts and they make it seem like I'm talking about, you know, doomsday or something, but I don't do any interviews like that anymore. You know, if it bleeds, it leads, you know, and you can't change their mind about anything. All I really wanted was just to have like 3 sentences of me saying something accurately portrayed on the History Channel. And it hasn't happened in 3 documentaries, so I don't think it's ever going to happen. But anyway, that hasn't been very helpful for the credibility of the work that I've been trying to do. Like for example, the galactic alignment is not in alignment of planets. Here you have this nice image of all the planets lining up, in a row. That's not what the galactic alignment is. It's the alignment of the December solstice sun with the dark rift in the Milky Way, the galactic, the crossroads of the Milky Way and ecliptic. Here's the image that Jim did. This is another idea that's out there. This is the galactic alignment is not this. There is this process by which, well, let's see. This is kind of interesting anyway, but because there is this real process that's involved in this. You know how there's like spiral arms? If you see a picture of a galaxy, like our galaxy has spiral arms. Well, each one of those spiral arms is kind of like this sort of elongated tube, or you could picture it like an elongated tornado, coming out. It is spinning around like this. So the things on that spiral arm are kind of going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down as the whole thing is revolving around over this vast cyclic period. Like our solar system is orbiting around the galactic center. It takes about 240 million years. And since we're out here on one of these spiral arms, we're going up and down and up and down and up and down. And so we do sort of go above and below and above and below the galactic midplane, which is kind of an abstract line here. The problem is that these processes take on the order of 80 million years to do these kinds of things. And our solar system is way up here. We're not on the galactic midplane. So when people say, oh, our solar system's lining up with the galactic equator, they're not, the galactic alignment is not this. This is an orbital process, and there's no kind of alignment of our solar system with the galactic equator in 2012. So it's a silly thing. It can be clarified, and I've written about it quite a bit going back to 1998. In fact, NASA, David Morrison at NASA, he's, they always go to him, for the voice of reason or something, and I guess he likes to get it wrong or something, because it serves the polemical purpose of dismissing the whole thing as having any legitimacy. So, there's problems like that going on. It's been mixed up with other ideas like the photon belts and galactic synchronization and all these goofy ideas. But it's just, the galactic alignment is just basic precessional astronomy, It's been calculated, astronomers have calculated.